A lot of people don't like bottom paint. Well, but one thing that you think about with bottom paint is it is weight and drag on the boat. So whenever you bottom paint a boat, it does add weight and drag to it, which changes your fuel economy. So you are losing fuel economy and you are, slowing down your boat. It's not going to be a lot. Depending on the boat, it might even be negligible. We're talking 1, 2, 3 mile an hour difference. So like if you got a boat that cruises at 35 miles an hour with a top speed of 44 miles an hour and you bottom paint the boat and now it only does 43, 42 miles an hour and cruises at 33 miles an hour, it's going to be negligible. It can also, decrease your fuel economy because you're adding weight and drag to the boat. But usually people that don't like bottom paint, I don't know if it's really a Floridian thing, as it is more of a personal preference. It's just that, without bottom paint, the boat's going to perform a little bit better, but also the fuel economy will be a little bit better. But some people just don't like the look of bottom paint as well. I think that's more personal preference opposed to being like, most Floridians don't like bottom paint. A lot of Floridians leave their boats in the water a lot. So a lot of them have bottom paint on their boats just because of the way they use it. So that's my opinion there, Tim. Lil Dina says, I don't mind paying $200 to replace my 24-year-old timing belt. I just never wanted to pay someone to do it. Well, that's a whole nother discussion. You just don't want to pay people to do stuff. But thanks for the video. I now feel confident I could do my F200 TLRY, even though the belt shows no signs of wearing. My engine is way simpler than this. Talking about changing timing belts. 24 years on a timing belt, that's, kind of ballsy. Generally, you don't see timing belts just go, but it's the timing of an engine. If you've got an interference engine, changing that timing belt is pretty important. Like if that goes, then your engine's going to be jacked up. You're going to either need the head rebuilt, new valves, new buckets, new shims. It's kind of like a pretty big risk, especially for a couple $100. Like it's a very simple thing to change the timing belt. So surprised you waited 24 years to do that. So anybody out there that has timing belts on your outboards should probably at least every few years do that maintenance. It's a pretty big deal. Timing belts. Michael says, would you explain in a bit more detail the comment about changing out PCM to turn it from 300 to 225? Michael, that's pretty much the conversation that we just had with the horsepower rating of the boat. The boat that we did this on was only rated for 225, and putting a 300 on there, we couldn't sell the boat legally without having that liability issue. So that's the whole deal there. But also the power that you get, in the performance of a boat with a 300 versus a 225 is going to be way different. And then also your fuel economy is going to be way different. So I think we've kind of covered that conversation quite a bit. Collins Marine says, for a hole in the canvas, use a soldering iron. It seals the edges so the hole won't enlarge. That's a really good comment. So we're talking about canvas on T-tops, bimini tops, stuff like that, and putting holes in there. So if you got a T-top and you got T-top canvas and you need to add a spotlight, a spreader light, a nav light, a VHF antenna, whatever you're putting on there, your anchor light, taking a soldering iron to make the hole in the canvas to pass the wire through the canvas. The soldering iron burns the edges and seals it so it won't stretch. That's really, really good comment. You could probably do that with anything. Like if you take a pick, a screwdriver, something like that, and then you just heat it up and then put that through the canvas, that heat is going to singe those edges and seal them so it doesn't split. Because if you just cut your canvas, because you're cutting the threads, it can just, it could rip a big line in the canvas because the canvas is tight. So, if you just go up there and start cutting it, you are risking enlarging that hole. So great comment. Great, good thing to talk about. Thank you, Colin. Bretonnier says, how would you compare Salt Away versus Barnacle Buster versus Rid Lime, CLR, or a 30% vinegar solution for closed loop descaling or after cooler, heat exchanger, fuel cooler, trans oil cooler? Well, this is quite the discussion here. So, it's all chemical breakdowns. Salt Away isn't really in the same deal with all these other ones. Salt Away dissolves salt before it dries. So that's what it does. Salt Away If you spray salt away through something, it dissolves the salt in the water. You know, it breaks it down so it doesn't dry out and leave this salt to start corroding. So totally different use for salt away. The barnacle buster, I mean, I've not really used a lot of that. I mean, it's very similar to Rid Lime. CLR, I think, is more for like lime, calcium lime, or whatever that R stands for. So if you like this clip and you want to watch more, you can see another one over here or watch the full episode over here.